By the end of 1974, police in Seattle had a list of suspects in a string of disappearances. The list had 2,400 names on it. His name was on it. His girlfriend had turned him in. A co-worker had turned him in. They still didn't catch him. Not for another year. By then, he had moved to Utah and started again. Welcome back. This is not the story of what Ted Bundy did. You already know some of that. This is the story of how he stayed free. How a man whose girlfriend called the police, whose co-worker called the police, whose own face was on a wanted flyer in 3 states, kept going for years, kept killing for years. The answer is not comfortable. The answer tells you something about how people see each other, about what investigations could do in 1974, and about a man who understood, better than almost anyone before him, how to look like the last person you should ever be afraid of. Theodore Robert Bundy was born on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont. His mother was unmarried. For most of his childhood, he was raised to believe his mother was his older sister, and his grandparents were his parents. He didn't learn the truth until he was a teenager. His family moved to Washington State. He grew up quiet, smart, awkward with girls in high school. Nothing in the records suggests a monster in waiting. Then he went to the University of Washington. He studied psychology. Later, law. He volunteered on a crisis line, answering calls from people in their worst moments and convincing them to keep living. His co-workers on that line described him as kind, patient, good at his job. One of them was a former police detective. She would later write that she never suspected a thing. This is the part of the story people find hardest to accept. There was no mask. The warm, charming, helpful Ted Bundy his friends knew, that was real. That was him. And so was everything else. The first confirmed attack was on January 4, 1974. Karen Sparks was 18 years old, a student in Seattle. A man entered her basement apartment while she slept. She was attacked and left for dead. She survived. She never fully recovered. For months, police treated her case as an isolated incident. A month later, another young woman disappeared from her home near the university. Linda Ann Healy, 21. There was no sign of forced entry, no sign of a struggle, only her blood-stained pillow and a missing nightgown. Then the pattern began. 7 women in 6 months, all around the same age. All with long hair, parted in the middle. All disappearing near college campuses across Washington and Oregon. Police were now sure it was the same man, but they had no face, no name, no vehicle description that matched across cases. Only a vague shape, a man, a smile, a request for help, and then nothing. Then came Georgian Hawkins, June 11, 1974. She was walking back to her dorm at the University of Washington at night. It was a short walk, well lit. She waved to a friend from across the alley. She never made it to the building. This time, witnesses came forward. Students on the street said they had seen a man near the dorms that night. He was on crutches. He had a cast on his arm. He was asking women if they could help him carry his books to his car. He was polite, clean-cut, handsome. He introduced himself as Ted. The witnesses also remembered a car, a light-colored Volkswagen Beetle. It was the first real description police had. They had a first name, a car, a method. It was not enough. Not yet. July 14, 1974. Lake Sammamish State Park, east of Seattle. A hot Sunday. More than 40,000 people were at the park that day. 5 different women would later tell police that a man had approached them. He was young, good-looking. His left arm was in a sling. He said his name was Ted. He asked if they could help him lift a sailboat onto the roof of his car. 3 of them said no and walked away. 2 did not. Janice Ott was 23 years old, a caseworker at a juvenile detention center. Denise Naslund was 19. She was at the park with her boyfriend and friends. She left the group to use the restroom. Neither came back. 2 women. Same day. Same park. Same man. Same name. This was the moment everything changed. Police now had a name. Ted. A vehicle. A light-colored Volkswagen Beetle. A physical description from multiple witnesses. A composite sketch. Newspapers in Seattle put the sketch on the front page, and the phone calls began. A young woman named Elizabeth Klopfer, Ted Bundy's girlfriend, looked at the sketch. She recognized him. She called the Seattle police. A woman named Ann Rule, a former police officer, now a true crime writer who worked next to Ted Bundy on the suicide crisis line, looked at the sketch. She recognized him. She called the police too. A psychology professor from the University of Washington recognized him, called the police. 3 separate tips, same name, same man. Ted Bundy's name went onto the suspect list. There were 2,400 other names on it. There were no computers to sort them. There were detectives, paper files, and a clock running out. Ted Bundy was classified as a lower priority suspect. He was clean-cut, no criminal record, a law student, a crisis line volunteer. He did not look like the kind of man they were looking for. That, in the end, was always the problem. In the fall of 1974, the attacks in Washington stopped. They started in Utah. Ted Bundy had transferred to the University of Utah College of Law. Over the next year, young women began disappearing near Salt Lake City. Melissa Smith, Laura Amy, Deborah Kent, and then Carol DaRonch. November 8, 1974. Fashion Place Mall, Murray, Utah. Carol DaRonch was 18. A man approached her in the bookstore. He showed her a badge. He said he was a police officer. He told her someone had tried to break into her car, and he needed her to come to the station to identify the suspect. She got into the passenger seat of his Volkswagen Beetle. He drove the wrong way. When she asked where they were going, he pulled over. He tried to handcuff her. He accidentally clamped both cuffs on the same wrist. Carol DaRonch fought him. She got out of the car. She ran into traffic. A couple driving past picked her up. She survived. She remembered his face. She remembered the car. She remembered the handcuff she had run away still wearing on her wrist. She would be the witness that changed everything. August 16, 1975. A Utah Highway Patrol sergeant named Bob Hayward was driving through a quiet neighborhood near Salt Lake City. He noticed a Volkswagen Beetle. The driver saw the patrol car and sped off. Hayward pulled him over. Inside the car, he found a ski mask, another mask made from pantyhose, rope, handcuffs, a crowbar, an ice pick, trash bags. The driver said they were camping supplies. His name was Theodore Robert Bundy. The Utah case against Bundy was built around Carol DaRonch. She identified him in a lineup. She identified his car. She identified the handcuffs. In February 1976, Ted Bundy was convicted of kidnapping, sentenced to 1 to 15 years in Utah State Prison. While he sat in that cell, investigators in Colorado were building a murder case against him for the death of a young woman named Caryn Campbell. He was extradited to Colorado to stand trial. That was where he made his next move. June 7, 1977. Aspen, Colorado. Bundy was representing himself in his own murder case. That meant he was given access to the courthouse law library. During a break, he walked to the second floor, opened a window, and jumped out. He was gone for 6 days. He hid in the mountains. He was cold. He was hungry. He stole food from cabins. He stole a car. He was recaptured driving that car erratically through Aspen. He was put back in a jail in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. This time, he started preparing a real escape. For months, he starved himself. He sawed a hole in the metal ceiling of his cell using a hacksaw blade smuggled in by another inmate. On December 30th, 1977, while most of the jail staff was home for the holidays, Ted Bundy climbed through that hole. crawled through the ceiling into the jailer's apartment above his cell, put on civilian clothes, and walked out the front door. He was not reported missing for 17 hours. By then, he was on a plane to Chicago. From Chicago, he took a train, then a bus, then another bus. He ended up in Tallahassee, Florida. He rented a room under a fake name in a boarding house called the Oak. He told himself he would stop. He did not stop. 15 days after arriving in Florida, Ted Bundy walked onto the Florida State University campus. It was just after 3 in the morning. He entered the Chi Omega sorority house through a back door with a broken lock. Over the next 40 minutes, he attacked 4 young women who were asleep in their beds. 2 of them, Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy, did not survive. 2 others, Kathy Kleiner and Karen Chandler, survived. Before leaving the house, Bundy attacked a 5th young woman in a nearby apartment. She also survived. When investigators processed the scene at Chi Omega, they found something that would become the most important piece of physical evidence in the case: a bite mark. It had been left on one of the victims during the attack. Forensic odontologists photographed it. They cast it. They preserved it. In 1978, bite mark analysis was still new in American courts. This would become one of the first cases where it was introduced as primary evidence. For now, police had physical evidence. They did not yet have the man. 3 weeks later, on February 9th, 1978, a 12-year-old girl named Kimberly Leach was taken from her school in Lake City, Florida. She was the last confirmed victim of Ted Bundy. 6 days later, at 2 in the morning, a police officer in Pensacola, Florida, ran a license plate on a Volkswagen Beetle that was driving suspiciously. The plate was stolen. The officer pulled the car over. The driver tried to run. There was a brief struggle. The officer arrested him. At the station, the driver gave a fake name. It took 3 days for Pensacola police to realize who they had in their holding cell. When they did, they called Florida State. They called the FBI. The man in their cell was on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. It was Ted Bundy. This time, he would not get out. The Chi Omega trial began in June 1979. It was the first murder trial in American history to be broadcast live on national television. More than 250 reporters were credentialed to cover it. And Ted Bundy, once again, decided to represent himself. He cross-examined witnesses. He objected. He smiled at the cameras. He arrived in court in neat suits, often with a fresh haircut. Outside the courthouse, crowds gathered every day. Some of them were angry. Many of them were fans. During the trial, prosecutors introduced the bite mark evidence from Chi Omega. They flew in 2 forensic odontologists. They presented photographs. They presented dental casts. They demonstrated how the impression left at the crime scene matched the unusual alignment of Ted Bundy's teeth. It was the first time many jurors had ever seen forensic dentistry used in a murder trial. Combined with eyewitness identification, hair analysis, and fiber evidence from the van Bundy had stolen, the bite mark closed the case. The jury deliberated for 7 hours. Guilty on 2 counts of murder. Guilty on 3 counts of attempted murder. Guilty of burglary. A separate trial in Orlando convicted him of the murder of Kimberly Leach. Total sentence: death. 3 times over. Ted Bundy listened, adjusted his tie, turned toward the cameras. Later, from death row, he began trading confessions for time. For years, he refused to admit to anything. Then, as his final execution date approached, he started talking. He confessed to 30 murders in 7 states. Investigators believed the true number was higher. Some put it at more than 100. He never gave them all the names. Ted Bundy spent almost 10 years on death row. He filed appeals. He filed more appeals. He bought himself time. In his final week, he gave a recorded interview in which he blamed pornography for what he had done. Some investigators have called it his last manipulation. January 24th, 1989. Outside the prison, a crowd had gathered overnight. There were bonfires. There were signs. Some people were there to mourn the women he had killed. Others were there because the execution had become a spectacle. At 7:16 in the morning, Ted Bundy was executed in the electric chair. He was 42 years old. Outside, when the news came, the crowd cheered. Inside, a man who had once convinced strangers he was the safest person on a dark street had run out of strangers to convince. Ted Bundy told police his name in 1974. It took 14 years to execute him. In those 14 years, his girlfriend called the police. His co-worker called the police. A professor called the police. Witnesses gave them his first name, his car, his face. And still, for more than a year, he walked free. Because he did not look like the kind of man they were looking for. That, in the end, is the only lesson this case leaves behind. If this episode stayed with you, let us know in the comments. Which moment in the investigation do you think was the one that should have stopped him? Share this with someone who listens to stories like these.